Alright, so you got through the intro video to the exponents, and now you're going to work on filling in some notes so that you can kind of learn it a little bit better. It says page 4, if you can see the page numbers in your notebook. But it's just on the back of the notes that we just did. So if you flip that over, and again, same thing, follow along, fill in, highlight what I'm doing, just so you have the information. The first thing that we're going to go over is some key vocabulary that you're going to see in this unit. The first one is numbers that are multiplied, and this is going to be powers. And that's what the whole kind of exponent and base is called, is a powers, or a power, that you'll refer to. So it's, when you say it, you use the word power. Oh, it's 5 to the second power, or 12 to the first power, or 8 to the seventh power, or anything like that. So that's a word you're going to use when you're describing these things, or when it says, write this exponent in words. The second vocabulary word that you probably are familiar with by now is going to be exponent. And an exponent is the number that tells you how many times a base is multiplied or used as a factor. The exponent can be higher, or it can be lower than the base. So if your base is 5 and your exponent is 12, that is okay. That means you need to multiply 5 by itself 12 times. So because it's telling you how many times to multiply the base by itself, it doesn't matter how much bigger or how much smaller that the exponent is than the base. The next one is another vocabulary word that you're probably familiar with from the previous video, and that is base. The base is the number that is multiplied. Remember, the base is the big number. B and B. Base is big. And then another word, you've heard this word before, however, you may not be as familiar with it with this definition. You'll see this definition, or this word, meaning to make something smaller. And sometimes making something smaller is simply finding the answer. So the word here is going to be simplify. So if you just see the word simplify and you're given just like a base and an exponent, that just means solve it. So give me the standard form. So you're going to want to be familiar with that, because on your quizzes and on your tests, you'll see a lot of just the word simplify and then the problem. And you may not always look at an exponent as just a problem, but it just wants you to give you a final answer that's a little bit simpler than saying, oh, 7 to the third power, or anything like that. So you have that vocabulary word to look into. You'll see that as a lot. You'll see all of these words a lot, which is why we're writing them down. And remember, as you're going through this unit, you can always reference back to this vocabulary if you're unsure what something means. But by the time you get to your quiz, you're going to want to make sure that you're pretty familiar with it. If you look down on your sheet, you just have a big 4 and a little 3. All I want you to do is label what they are at this point. I want you to be really kind of get familiar with the base as the big number, and the exponent as the little number. That's never going to change. The exponent's never going to be quote unquote the big number. And when I say the base is the big number, I mean that base is physically larger than the exponent. So it's not the base is the big number, the one that has the highest value. It's the base that is actually looks larger than the other one. So you can see that the 4 here is definitely physically bigger than the number 3. In this case, the 4 does have a higher value. However, that's not what makes it the base. What makes it the base is that it is an actual larger physically than the 3. Alright, before we start practicing, you just have some special exponent words. It kind of helps you. They're special because you see them more often than maybe like something that, to the 8th power or 12th power or anything like that. So one would be like, so if x squared. So if you had something that was squared, so 2 squared, I'm saying it instead of to the 2nd power is a special word that you have. So say it was 2 to the 2nd power, 4 to the 2nd power, 5 to the 2nd power, anything like that. Just you shorten it up and make it a little bit easier because you see it more often. We can also refer to something to the 2nd power as something being squared. As we move through this unit, you'll work with that a little bit more. So in this instance, this says x squared, which is the same thing as x to the 2nd power. You're going to want to remember this word because sometimes on your homework or your test or your quiz or your classwork, it'll say, oh, what is the value of 4 squared? And you're going to need to understand that that means 4 times 4. Same thing, you see x to the 3rd power or number to the 3rd power a little more often, just like you see to the 2nd power. So it has a special name too. And its special name is cubed. So you can see this says x cubed. You could have 4 cubed, 5 cubed, 3 cubed, anything like that. It has the same value and it means the same thing as some number to the 3rd power, but it's just a shorter way of saying it. Alright, so let's get into some practice. And I'm going to do some of these with you, and then you're going to do some on your own. This first one, we have the powers, which is also written in exponential notation. This says 4 to the 2nd power, or 4, using our special word squared. The way you say it out loud is the same way that you would write it in words. So what I could do here is I can write 4 squared. Or if you really want to, you can write 4 to the 2nd power. It's up to you. It means the same thing. So there's 4 squared. Expression is just like the expanded form. That's what they have it written down as in your first page of notes. So I just write that word above it so that you're not getting too confused. So the express form of 4 squared would be 4 times 4. Not too hard. And the value is the same thing as what we said is standard form, which just means what is the answer, or actually do the multiplication in the power. So what is 4 times 4? Well, 4 times 4 is 16. That you should all be pretty familiar with. As we get through some of these, like you see on the next one, I'm sure, it has a lot more numbers, so that's why it is a calculator standard, because they're not always going to be as easy. And once we get through get to the next one, when I'm doing the value, it's probably going to be a good idea to stop the video, come up to me with your calculator, and ask me what button do you use in your calculator to put in an exponent. If you don't ask me today, I'll be able to show you tomorrow, but I would recommend doing it today, because the more comfortable you get with it today, the easier it's going to be for you as we go on. Alright, so here on this next one, we've been given some 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. So where do we start? Well, we want to make it write it as a power first. So the base is the number that's being multiplied. So our base is 5 because that's the number that's being multiplied by itself. And then our exponent is just the number of times that it's been multiplied. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 5s. So my exponent is just going to be 6. So if I say that out loud, it's 5 to the 6th power, which means if I write it in words, it's 5 to the 6th power. And I've already been given the expanded form or the expression for it, so now I just have to find the value. In order to do that, I could either A, multiply 5 by itself 6 times, or I could use my little exponent button on my calculator, and I could solve it. So, at this time, I want you to put those numbers in there, or come up to me so I can show you how I'm getting this answer. The answer that I get when I do this is 15,625.
Karen, if you'll please dial 6620. Karen, if you will please dial.
Okay. So now, what I want you to do is I want you to fill in those next couple of boxes for these next two powers. Fill them in and get me to check them. And we'll kind of see where you're at. If you have questions, make sure you're asking them. If you don't understand, make sure that you are letting me know. You can always pause and go back into the video if you need to as well.